afternoon, everybody. It's the Cryptid Huntress. I'm Jessica Jones. And boy, did I just have a total technical glitch right before we started right there. I'm a couple minutes late, but hey, we're here and I'm so excited that you guys are here with me today. We have a fantastic show for everybody today. We have my good friend, Mr. Jock Doubleday, here in the studio with us. He is a fascinating human and we have so much to talk about, y'all. We're not talking about Dogman or Bigfoot or any kind of cryptid today. We're talking about, I'm going to say, our hidden history. Okay, our hidden history and anomalies in our geology. Okay, that he has noticed in all of his years of being outdoors and traveling the world. Okay, so you guys buckle up, get your popcorn, y'all. This is mind-blowing information that we're going to be talking about today. And I can't wait to get the show started. If you guys would like to follow along with my shows and go through my archives or get my calendar of events, you guys go to the cryptidhuntress.com. It's a great way to keep up with me. Okay, so the cryptidhuntress.com. If you guys would like to support my work, I do have a Patreon. It's the Cryptid Huntress over there on Patreon. So thank you guys so much for all your support there. And also my shop. It's called War Woman Goods. And I want to thank you guys so much for all your continued support with my shop, my Patreon, everything. It means the world to me. So thank you guys so much for all of that. Okay, let's get to our show. All right, now I am going to be at some events too coming up next month. On January the 11th, I'll be at a UFO conference in Georgia. It's on the ticker. And also on the 18th, I'll be in Alabama at the East Alabama Bigfoot Town Hall. So please come see me there as well. Okay, let's get to it. Because I lost a few minutes there. We don't have much time today. Okay, so we're going to be talking about the ancient builder race. Okay, the ancient builder race. Actually, we're going to be talking about anomalies in our Earth. Okay, our Earth structures, mountains, you name it. We're going to be talking about this today. Jock Doubleday is an American writer, researcher, stoneworker, and videographer. For 16 months in 2014 and 2015, and for an additional 3 months in 2017, he worked as the official videographer of the Archaeological Park Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun Foundation, a nonprofit Bosnian NGO foundation created on November the 9th, 2005 in Sarajevo, Bosnia-Herzegovina. Doubleday's latest articles on the Bosnian pyramids and other ancient megalithic monuments and civilizations can be found at an americaninbosnia.wordpress.com. His earliest articles can be found at the blogs, anamericaninbosnia.blogspot.com. His Bosnian archaeology videos can be found on the Bosnian Pyramids YouTube channel. His continental terraforming videos and other archaeology-related videos can be found on his personal YouTube channel. That's Jock Doubleday on YouTube. His book in progress, Who Built the Earth? An Exploration of Geological, Geophysical, Seismological, and Astrophysical Evidence for an Earth Constructed by an Advanced Race or Races in the Distant Past, will be published soon. And you guys, I got to hang out with Jock at the Journey to Truth conference last year, and he had my, hands down, it was my favorite presentation. I'm sorry, no shade to everybody. Everybody had wonderful presentations, but I think Jock's was my favorite of all of them. It was really informative, and it really opened my mind to a lot of really interesting new things, actually very old things. Please help me welcome to the show my buddy, Jock Doubleday. Hey, Jock. Uh-oh, you're muted. Take your mute button off.
Sorry. Well,
Yes.
Hi.
Hey, Jock. This has been, I feel like the Three Stooges this morning or this afternoon. Running around with my like a chicken with my head cut off just then.
Hey, we're all trying to catch up with the wild technology of the time, so we should forgive ourselves for not being perfect StreamYard folks.
Yes. I forgive myself every day. Every day. I do. I have to. How have you been, Jock? What's been going on with you? You doing okay?
I'm continuing my work as a playwright. I just want everyone to know that I'm not a professional degreed archaeologist or geologist. Right off the bat, I want to make it clear that I'm not making any claims like that. I call myself an amateur archaeologist because I'm out doing work that I feel that the professional archaeologists should be doing, which is actually looking at the material. Now, usually I'm writing plays, so I am writing this book that was originally called Who Built the Earth, and then I decided very recently, to retitle it to Artifact Terra, because I wanted the word Terra in the title because the Galactic Federation of Worlds, all of the member races in that federation call our planet Terra. None of them call our planet Earth. So I thought I should have the correct title of our planet in the book title.
Oh yeah. Wow. How about, okay, so why do you think that geologists are not I want to say doing their job, but do you think that, I mean, obviously they're not taught maybe the truth behind the geology, and I know that's like a weird way to start this off. How about you tell us today, before we get into that question, tell me how you got into all of this. I know you were at the Bosnian Pyramid complex. You started noticing anomalies in the earth. I mean, how did it all start?
Right. Well, before I get into that, let me just mention that the key to all of this, not just from my perspective, but from the controller's perspective, is the young universe. So they want to keep in place the idea that we live in a very young universe, 13.8 billion years, that came into existence when everything came from nothing. So we know that's farcical on the face of it. So we know that's total, utter nonsense on the face of it. So my first chapter in the book, Artifact Terra, is called The Big Bang Fairy Tale. This is the key to it all. It's the key to their control system, not just about us, not just about our planet, not just about the universe, but about everything. So the reason that the young universe is the key is that in a young universe of only 13.8 billion years, we can plausibly imagine that we are the first advanced race. We're the first race to raise our heads above the muck and mire and achieve self-awareness, self-consciousness. And with self-consciousness, understanding that we exist means that we understand that we have a future. And if we have a future, we begin to develop technology. We develop agriculture, then we develop cities, and we develop high technology because we understand we have a future. We want to make that future better, so we're developing tools, right? So we become an advanced civilization because of our self-awareness. Now, in a universe of infinite time, or a universe, say, of 21 trillion years, which is what Alex Collier says the Andromedans have told him the universe's age is, then we cannot plausibly imagine that we are the first advanced universe. That would be ridiculous. So we would have to imagine that we are most likely not just the last advanced race, but the descendants of advanced races out there. And then we would want to go looking for them, which is why the control system wants us very, very urgently to believe in a young universe. Because if we believe in a young universe, we'll never go looking for our galactic family. We'll never exit the matrix that they've set up for us, the thought control matrix.
That makes a lot of sense. I have to agree. That I feel that way too, and I have seen with all these shows that we're doing, all the research I've done, all the remote viewing targets I've been given, our history is not what we've been taught at all, and there is a big cover up going on with our timeline deception and things like that. I mean, just little things start to add up. I wouldn't say those are little things. But the geology of the planet too, I think you've actually been on the show before. We talked about the potential of the mountains being giants, things like that. And the more I look into it, the more I I think that we may have had giants on this planet. As a matter of fact, I think that the giants were responsible for building things like our pyramids and stuff. Once you start pulling that thread and you start unraveling that sweater, everything starts to fall apart. Okay, like everything that we've been taught seems to not be true.
Yeah, we have different theories of the planet's origin and its makeup, its constitution. And so we have James Maxlow, who is a retired professional geologist in Australia, who worked for gold mining companies for his entire life, but then near the end of his career began to realize that the geological theory about the Earth remaining the same size through time was incorrect. And he has jamesmaxlow.com and expansiontectonics.com, and he shows that it is unequivocally true that we have an expanding planet, and that is why we had giant organisms in the distant past. 300 million years ago, we had a much smaller planet. It was about half the size in diameter of its present diameter. So it was about the size of Mars 300 million years ago, in the time of those large dinosaurs like Brontosaurus, T-Rex, Allosaurus, all those huge dinosaurs, which in today's gravity could not even move. They couldn't get up off the ground. But in that time, when the mass of the planet was half its size, this is our planet today. Now it's the size of Mars. It's about half the size. Those giant animals and giant plants, and they all thrived, they all flourished in this low gravity, and their size was correspondent to the low gravity. So they just said, oh, it's low gravity, we're going to grow huge. Now, where the birds, the dragonflies, everything is downsized, the mushrooms, everything has become smaller, smaller, smaller as the gravity increases over time. And James Maxlow shows that the way that the Earth expands is through ionized particles from the sun coming and sticking in the mantle. So what's an ionized particle? It's just a charged particle. So it's a particle that's coming from the sun, sticking in the mantle, which is below the crust. So you've got the crust of the Earth, the oceanic, and then the continental crust, right? And below that is the mantle, and the mantle is stuck to the crust, it's adhered to it. So when the mantle swells from these ionized particles sticking in there from the sun, it breaks the crust, and then volcanic material comes up and seals that, just like your blood would seal a tear in your skin. It's sealed, the volcanic material sealing the tear in the Earth's skin. And that's how the Earth is growing. It's through the seabed midlines, where all of that so-called ring of fire, the volcanic ring of fire, in the oceans. Most volcanoes are in the ocean. So most volcanic action is in the ocean. So it's expanding from the seabeds, right? Now that means that's very significant, because if we have an expanding Earth, then we know that the Earth was smaller in the past, and that explains all the giant organisms. Whereas in academia, they just say, oh, there was a higher oxygen content in the past, and that's why organisms were larger. And it's like, well, that's a nice theory, but you're wrong. The oxygen might have contributed something, but the fact of the Earth being half its size was the key to the larger organisms, and not just larger animals, but larger humans and humanoids that gave us the giants and the giant footprints that we see. So we have evidence, that's clear evidence of huge people, 5 toes, walking around, leaving footprints in granite and things like that. And so we know that giants existed, and then we go, what happened to them? Well, some of them could have sort of crystallized into a shape that could be recognized as a hill or a mountain, and that's fine. And and we have other, and that just means it's part of the paleontological record. But of course, the Smithsonian is going to try and hide all evidence of giant organisms in the past.
Yeah, we know that. I actually had a gentleman on the show who worked for the Smithsonian and handled the giant skeletons. And
Really?
That's just one small little bit of the
Wow.
puzzle, a little piece of the puzzle. Yeah. He gave us some really interesting information, mentioning how the skulls, some of them had holes in them. I thought we were going to be talking about the execution of giants or something, but that's not where he went with it. He said it was probably from, is it called trepidation or
Trepanation. Yeah.
trepanation?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Long Island Bigfoot. Thank you for that super sticker. I appreciate you so much.
What was that guy's name?
Well, he called himself Dr. Wu.
Oh, I see.
Dr. Wu. Yeah.
He doesn't want to get in trouble.
Yeah, probably not. Yes, I don't know. I actually don't know his real name. I just know him as Dr. Wu. Okay, but he's pretty credible with it, and I do believe that I know that he did work there, and so I don't know. I don't think the Smithsonian's real prone or real apt to putting out information about their skeletons. I mean, they act like they don't know where they went, or they don't have them. They have no record. I mean, there's a huge cover-up going on, Jock.
I know. It's like when we audit the Pentagon. They're like, we don't know what happened to those hundreds of trillions of dollars or whatever it is, trillions of dollars. And the Smithsonian's the same way. We don't know what happened to those giant skeletons. We don't have any record of that. Oh, okay.
Yeah, no record. Well, luckily for us, I do know at least one or two people that have giant skeletons in their private collection. So hopefully they're not all gone.
Good.
Okay. At least that's what I've been told.
Well, yeah, and we have in the forest directly south of Paris, it's Fontainebleau Forest. There's a Facebook page called Stone Gin, STONEJINN, run by Bruno Testi, Teste, and he takes pictures of all of the fossilized sort of museum piece organisms that are just along the trails in that forest, just 25 kilometers south of Paris. And some of them, one of them is an elongated skull, just massive head, about, say, I don't know, 5 or 6 or 7 times larger than a normal human head. And it's just sitting there and with this huge elongated skull to it, and then giant organisms, lizards, fish, and they're all set up like museum pieces along these trails. And like, what the heck's going on here? But we have the fossilized evidence from the past that all of the academics in Paris are completely ignoring. You have to go to Bruno Testi's Facebook page, Stone Gin, to find this evidence, because academia doesn't want you to know that we had an expanding Earth. I don't know why they don't want us to know that. I don't know why they don't want us to know that our Earth was smaller in the distant past, but for some reason they want to keep that lid on that information.
Well, they'd have to admit a whole lot of other things pertaining to that has been covered up for so long in our textbooks. We're not taught any of this stuff in school. And Maureen, thank you for that super sticker. I appreciate it so much. One thing would lead to another. Okay, and the whole world would know that we've been lied to for a long time, and it would cause an uprising, probably. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying, or maybe not. I mean, I think that this is the time of disclosure, full disclosure, and thanks to people like yourself, who you're not even a geologist. you didn't even go to school. You didn't go to school for that, right? You're a playwright. You write films, and but you are very adventurous. And you spent a lot of time at the Bosnian Pyramid complex. That is so cool. I mean, that's a whole other cover up in its own, right?
Right. Well, academia came down hard on that, and I've documented the whole thing in an article. But and anyone who wants to know what that article is can write me. So the Bosnian Pyramids is a late stage terraforming project. They are not like the pyramids in other sites around the world. They're not set upon the earth. They are the landscape. They are the hills and pyramids and tumuli are all part of the landscape, and they're all built out of alternating hard and soft clay layers inclined into the center of the structure. So let's say that you're facing the hill or the pyramid or the tumulus, okay? So let's say you're facing Vratnica Tumulus or the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun. We would build a structure with perfectly flat layers. They build it like this. so that the layers, the hard structural layers of clay, are inclined into the center of the structure. And then if you walk around this side, they're inclined this way. And if you walk around this side, they're inclined this way. So no matter where you are, they're going to be inclined, so that if there is an earthquake, those layers wedge in stronger. With any motion, they're just wedging in because they're sliding in on the soft clay below them, and there's soft clay above them and soft clay between them. And the soft clay is mitigating the earthquake energy so the structure can move, no problem. It's genius building. So that is the landscape. That's not pyramids set on the land. That's the land. All of that's built. Everything you see there is built. It's not just that pyramid-like structure, which is called the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun. That's the north face you're looking at right there. And pretty interesting, they have the light green little triangle at the top there. You got to wonder what that's about. And we've documented a tunnel system. Klaus Schwab, not Klaus Schwab. He'll hate me for that. Klaus Dona. I'm sorry, Klaus Dona.
A big difference.
Strike that from the record. Klaus Dona, a wonderful out-of-place artifacts researcher from Vienna, Austria. He has a friend, let's just say that, who has access to and runs a military-grade satellite ground-penetrating radar system. So he asked his friend, who shall remain nameless, to take a picture of the possible underground tunnels in the Bosnian Pyramid complex. And his friend did that for him. And in 2011, which was my first time there as a volunteer, at the scientific conference there, where there was many scientists showing their papers about what they found in the Bosnian Pyramid complex, he showed us the tunnel system that spirals inside the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun and then goes over to Ravne Tunnel. And so you can see, and he has all the depths of the tunnels too. So you can see the relative depths. Some of them are only 10 meters, some are 100 or 200 meters deep. So it's this incredible labyrinth of tunnels. They still haven't found an entrance into the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun. That's the picture of it right there. But behind us and to the right in this picture is Ravne tunnel system, and that's where they're digging, and they hope to make their way south and east toward this structure in a long tunnel that leads directly to this spiraling tunnel system below the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun. So Semir Osmanagic knew there would be a tunnel system there in below the pyramids that he discovered in April of 2005, because he'd spent 10 years in other countries, Central America, South America, risking his life. And if you want to read about his adventures, go to The World of the Maya. It's a PDF online. It's his adventures with pyramid complexes for many years. And so he already knew what a pyramid complex consisted of. And when he came back to his home country of Bosnia, he saw Visočica Hill, which is that structure we just saw. And he said, oh, that's a pyramid. It's oriented to the cosmic north. So that face we're looking at is 12 times more accurately oriented to the cosmic north than the Great Pyramid of the Sun, than the Great Pyramid on the Giza Plateau. 12 times more accurate. So it's the most accurate northern orientation to cosmic north of any pyramid in the world. So he said, wow, that's oriented to the cosmic north. That's a pyramid. I'm going up on the top. And he started naming pyramids. And he said, oh, I'm going to call this the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun. Visočica Hill is now the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun. Then he named, across the Foinica River, he named Bosnian Pyramid of the Moon. And so, but these are, the point of this whole spiel is that these are not pyramids set on the Earth, but they are the Earth. So it's a late-stage terraforming project. What do I mean by that? I mean that the continent builders who built the mountains and the hills and the valleys and the riverbeds and the creek beds, those builders came back 34 to 35,000 years ago, and they built a late-stage complex there. And Vanessa Lyle has told me in a reading, because I've been asking her about galactic history and Bosnian pyramid history for 15 sessions, 3 years of questions to her Pleiadian knowledge base guide. She says that the Bosnian Pyramid complex, and this is new information, I've only released this information in 2 other interviews because those are my latest interviews. So Below the Bosnian Pyramid complex, Vanessa Lyle says, is another complex. It's called the Temple Complex. That's what we call it. She and I call it the Temple Complex. That's what her guide calls it. And in that complex, so in other words, the Bosnian Pyramid complex, the late stage terraforming project that was created 34,000 years ago, which is quite young compared to the continents themselves, 4 billion years ago. This was created possibly to hide the temple complex from the barbarians that were coming soon, us, the idiots who would come and misuse this technology. So what happened in the temple complex below the Bosnian Pyramid complex? Well, Vanessa says that she saw a large chamber, and in this chamber, a priest, or something like what we would call a priest, was guiding a ceremony of putting a person's life memories into a large crystal. That was the purpose of the ceremony, was to take the life memories, put them in the crystal, maybe because that person was about to die or wanted to go to another realm, whatever, I don't know. Now, why the builders of the Bosnian Pyramid complex above the temple complex wanted to hide the temple complex from us, if this is all that was going on, was just putting life memories into crystals, I don't know. But I have a feeling that there were other things going on there, technologically advanced things that the wise ancients who built the continents and who then built the pyramid complex in Bosnia above the temple complex wanted to keep from us, the barbarians.
Whoa, that's wild. It makes sense. It makes sense, but this is all new, kind of new information for me, and I'm pretty sure the audience has probably not heard of this before too. Some of the people in here, at least. And we had a question. Someone in the audience was asking who were the builders exactly, and some people say, well, it was the Anunnaki. Okay, it was the Anunnaki. Is there really a label for it? I mean, it's gone back so many millions of years, right? Billions of years, maybe.
Right.
Who are the builders?
Well, this is one of the questions that I continually seek an answer to in my sessions with Vanessa Lyle, who's my main source for galactic history. And she has her guide, Reyna, Reyna. And Reyna is she lives on Era, which is a planet that orbits Taygeta in the Pleiades. So, Reyna says that Terra was created by intention from the ether by advanced intelligences. And I can't really get an answer about which races they were, because it seems to always go toward, well, they were consciousnesses, and it's not like physical beings were out there in spaceships with scaffolding and wheelbarrows. It was more like consciousnesses came together with an intention to create this planet, and presumably other planets, and suns, and they brought it into existence from the ether. And the ether is another key that the control system uses to keep us from understanding who and where we are in our lives. So in academia, they've discarded the ether. Tesla was the biggest fan of the ether on the planet. They needed to discard Tesla to discard the ether. So they discarded Tesla basically at the same time as they discarded the ether. The ether is the quarry for all matter. And Tesla said that in 1930, an article went across the United States through the Hearst Publishing Company, and it was a syndicated article, and it was called Man's Greatest Achievement. And you think, whoa, Nikola Tesla is writing an article about man's greatest achievement? It's going to be about his wireless energy. It's going to be about Wardenclyffe Tower. No. He was writing about something that would happen after he died, long after he died. He said, one day, man's greatest achievement will be to create worlds, to build planets from the luminiferous ether, from the fluid ether, as he called it. So fluid is a material, but we can't see this material ether, even though it's material. It's sort of a phase change deal. So the ether is material phase changed into something we can't see or work with or interact with in any way, except that we're going to learn how to interact with it. And Nikola Tesla said, we will learn to whirl the ether to create matter, and the whirling of the ether, the motion of the ether is the matter. So matter is ether in motion in a helical way, and we'll learn how to create different, he didn't say this, but we'll learn how to create different types of matter with different types of whirling is the assumption. So, but he did say that we'd learn how to whirl the ether for the fluid luminiferous ether. Why is it called the luminiferous ether? Is it because it's light radiant? No, it's because it's light bearing. All the scientists before Tesla, and including Tesla, knew that light needed a medium to travel. So they called it the luminiferous ether, the light bearing ether. And then the academia, the control system said, we got to get rid of the ether. We got to make it a void so that there's no safe place to stand. There's no quarry for planets. You see how they're doing this? There's a young universe. You're the first advanced. You're the first self-conscious race in the universe. You're alone. There's no place to stand. Stay home, Truman. It's a scary place out there.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking as you're talking about this, about, even mining crystals and stuff like that. I'm looking at pictures of the Grand Canyon, for instance, and I'm seeing pictures of that beside pictures of an area that's been mined for, let's just say, copper or some kind of crystals or something. Yeah. And it looks exactly the same. It looks like it's not where a meteor hit per se. It looks like a mining operation.
Well, it's funny you should say that because, let's see, was it Alex Collier? I can't remember. I can't attribute this to him. But anyway, one of the SSP insiders said that that the Grand Canyon was formed by plasma discharge in just a few minutes, or maybe even less than a minute, from another planet. I think maybe it was not an SSP insider. Maybe it was what's his name? Talbot. David Talbot. Wait, hold on. I have this book here. Yeah, David Talbot and Wallace Thornhill wrote the Electric Universe, and David Talbot came up with this. Everyone on your channel is going to know this name, David Talbot. He's the one that talked about the planets being in a different arrangement, which is actually originally from Immanuel Velikovsky, Worlds in Collision. He's written a lot of other books. So David Talbot found Immanuel Velikovsky, and he's like, oh my God, this explains so much. So when, let's say, Mars was closer to us, because our planets are charged electrically, sometimes there needs to be if they get too close, there's going to be a discharge of from one to the other. So he proposes that Mars discharged a plasma beam to the Earth and created the Grand Canyon. It just threw up all that material into space and into our atmosphere within a very short time. And it's pretty obvious that the Grand Canyon wasn't created by water erosion. So then you go, how was it created? So, and by the way, that original photo that you advertised this talk on social media just a couple hours ago, that photo is from the Grand Canyon. So we can see the interior of the Continent Builders building, their crystalline concrete structuring of the continents in that photo that you sent. It's not quite that one. It's a different one. That's the one. Yeah.
That's the one.
So we can see that vertical straight line seam because of a presumable or proposed plasma discharge that created the Grand Canyon in 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 minutes.
Wow. I'm just looking at the list of all these pictures. Should we go through some of these pictures, because we have a lot of them, just to show the audience some examples of what you've discovered and what you've been looking into.
Okay.
We'll start with this one.
Well, what do you see, Jessica? Tell me.
I see a straight line. Okay, I see a straight line. It looks like a crevice or a seam. A seam that is splitting. It looks like my pants after I eat too much. Okay. I'm just kidding.
That's true. I've seen your pants split like that when you eat too much. It's pretty funny.
Yes, you have to. Yeah, I have to wear a belt. Yes. I'm just kidding.
Actually, my suit that I wore to deliver my talk on the artifact Terra, who built Terra, in May 2023 at the conference where we met, that suit had actually split because for whatever reason. So maybe I ate too much, and then I had, just before I came to the conference, I had a seamstress sew it, but it was so I couldn't sit down. I never, you never saw me sit in that suit because it would have split again. So we have the same problem, I think.
We did, and we probably did. We did. And Brown Dwarf says that he sees a crazy dude, you know. And I looked past the crazy guy that's climbing through that crevice. Okay, I see him too, Brown Dwarf. He's got some, I was going to say, balls to do that.
Yeah.
That would scare.
Yeah, he's dragging his massive balls up that crack. Now his balls are just banging against the wall as he climbs up. It's horrible. But anyway, you can hear them clanging all the way down the canyon.
Oh man!
But anyway,
okay.
Okay, so climbers call these cracks because they've been told by geology that these are cracks, because obviously this must be a natural feature, because the Earth must have come into existence through natural forces, because we're the first advanced race in the universe, says academia. And because we're the first advanced race in the universe, there were no other races around to build Terra. There were no other races around to build continents. So therefore, this must be a crack. It cannot be a seam in the garment of the continents. Now, I call this a seam. It's an open seam. Okay, that's my terminology. You guys can call it what you want, but normally what we find is seams that are totally integral, so they're completely together. I have a feeling that this was together, held together magically, because I don't really know how they held their seams together all across the continents, because it's not obvious. It's not like they use mortar or adhesives of any kind. They just, somehow they hold together. So this is an open seam. Now, you'll notice the absence of any kind of fracturing in this entire fucking structure, okay? Excuse me if I get a little passionate about the disinformation of the geological academic folks, okay? You can see there's no fracturing in this structure at all. There's no little cracks and jagged lines anywhere, and it's perfectly integral except for this straight line with interior faces that are also regular and essentially flat and right angle to the surface that you're looking at. And you're like, well, wait a minute. If that's a crack, why aren't there other cracks in this? So then you go, so the sections are integral. The entire tall, amazingly tall and huge section is integral. And then the one on the right is also integral. No cracks, no fractures. But then there's this one crack that's straight, or has maybe a slight curve to it. It's hard to tell. So then you go to let's go to other images, because then we're going to start to see similar things. And once you start to see the similar vertical sectioning that the ancients did with their crystalline concrete, then you go, oh my God. See, I didn't want to be the continental terraforming guy, Jessica. I didn't, because it's such a grand scale project to build continents that it's like, well, that's impossible. I don't want to deal with that idea in my head. It just seems like way too much work. Like, who would do that? Who could do that? And how did they? But as you look at the evidence, you begin to see these vertical seams, and you're like, well, that's not a crack. A crack would be jagged. That's a straight line through what is called sedimentary material. But if it's sedimentary, that's always going to be a horizontally structured, layered object. And let's say that those horizontal or near horizontal layers are natural. Let's say the geologist is right, that they're natural. How does nature make a straight line through all those time periods? Mm-hmm. And then we've got, on the left, we've got another virtually straight line through what is supposed to be sedimentary material. And you see the integral quality of all those sections except where you have this straight line. And how does a vertical line appearing in what is supposed to be only horizontal material? If it's a fracture, it should be jagged, but it's not. It's regular. Then you go, well, what about these cuts on the outer banks of both of these pictures? One is a small scale, little tiny creek, winding creek, and the other one's a massive river. But you see the same structuring. You see that on the outer bank, they made it nice and tall, and vertical so that the river couldn't jump its banks. And on the inner bank, it's nice and gradual. And you go, well, that could happen. That could happen naturally. And so, yeah, it could happen naturally. But then you look at the structuring of the vertical line. Let's go into some other images, because this is Rock Creek in California. That's supposed to be granite. Now, I spent 5 days making videos in this creek because all those seams are going at 45-degree angles to the creek flow. And that's what you find all across the world, is the primary structuring is 45-degree angles. So if the creek's moving this way, you've got 45-degree angles if you look from above with a drone or something, you'll see that they crisscross at 45s. And then there's other angles too, but the primary angles are 45. So this line goes about 30 meters straight across what is supposed to be igneous material. Well, how is a straight line appearing in igneous material? Why is it at a 45-degree angle that crisscrosses other 45-degree angles? And why is granite stacking itself? That's just a stacked structure on top of the actual creek bed of Rock Creek. It's not adhered to it. So how is igneous rock suddenly stacking itself?
Yeah, that's wild. It doesn't look natural to me whatsoever. Now, and some of these rock, I don't know if they're petroglyphs. Petroglyphs are actually carved, I think, but the pictographs, right?
Right.
These, I'm familiar with these, but I have not noticed. I never looked. Most of us don't take the time to even think about it, that these are anomalies in the rocks with these straight lines. I mean, I never even thought to look at that.
Well, I went here with, I visited this. This is Horseshoe Canyon, I think it's called. Horseshoe Canyon in Utah. And took the long drive and the long hike in with my girlfriend at the time. And we were just in awe of these beautiful pictographs, as you mentioned. And we just couldn't get enough of them. And I didn't know anything about, I didn't think, I have to question geology. I have to question the fundamentals of academics' geological theory. I was just looking at the pictographs, and I think that's what most people do. They don't notice the straight lines. There's one, there's two, there's three, and they're all at the same angle. Now, they're not right angles, but they are vertical. I mean, I think of anything that's not horizontal as vertical. So if it's at a 45, I just call it a vertical line because it's not horizontal, if that's okay with people. And so that's at about, let's say, a 70 degrees, and they're all 70. They're all 70 degrees, and you're like, oh my God, those are seams in ancient crystalline concrete. Because there's no way that if that was natural sedimentary sandstone, as it's supposed to be, that's what geology tells us, there's no way that you'd have vertical straight line seams through natural sedimentary geology.
Wow, that's fascinating. I like this quote here from you here. It says that day you realized your high school geology teacher was a guy who never did field research, but just read quotes to you from textbooks written by the Rockefeller Foundation. For entertainment purposes only, y'all.
Yeah, right. This is just a little comedy because I'm sure there are some really well-researched geology teachers out there. And I know that Randall Carlson is probably the most well-researched man on the planet as far as reading geology papers, and he's really well-researched, but he has a fundamental premise at the base of his thinking that is a false premise. The false premise at the base of Randall Carlson's thinking, and at the base of Graham Hancock's thinking, and at the base of Robert Schoch's thinking, and at the base of every single earth sciences academic thinking is that we're the first advanced race in the universe. If we are the first advanced race in the universe, and if we know that we didn't build the continents or the planet, and we do know those things, then we believe unequivocally that the continents and the planet came into existence through natural forces. So that's what Randall Carlson believes. That's what Graham Hancock believes. That's what Robert Schoch believes. So in all of the ancient history researchers have this false premise at the base of their thinking, and it's really sad because of that false premise, we are not asking this fundamental and extremely simple question when we go out on our hike. Is what I'm looking at natural or artificial? If we ask that question, if we just ask that question, then we can gather evidence for, it looks a bit natural here, and it looks a bit artificial here, and we gather evidence and we see which theory has the most evidence behind it. Right now, if you're an academic, no geologist is asking that question. They're not going out on the land going, is this natural or artificial? They know it's natural. We're the first advanced race in the universe. We didn't build the planet. We didn't build the continents. So they know something that is false. It's false on the face of it. The first advanced race, please. We're the last advanced race, and we're not that advanced.
Now, I think we've gone back in time as far as like the dark ages. And this all ties into all the resets that we've been talking about too on the channel. We talk about, I mentioned, the mud flood, I think earlier, and the timeline deception, and maybe even the possibility of there being Tartarian empires and I want to say settlements like all over the world with the free energy and everything. I mean, it's just kind of coming to light in my world. Okay, so I'm just now discovering all this over the past couple of years. This is all new to me, to be honest, but it all resonates. I do believe that I think you're right on all this stuff.
It's weird to have all this evidence that to me is so obvious, but see, I never would have seen any of this if I hadn't had the 23 months in the Bosnian Pyramids. I would have just looked at all those lines as cracks. I just would have believed the geologists, because why would they be wrong? I mean, they're smart people. I have a video with a geologist in the video. I mean, he works for the park, so he's not actually a professor of geology. But go to my channel, Jock Doubleday, and check out my playlist, Artificial Riverbeds, and you find the one called the Quest for Geology, which is a little bit of humor. I always try to have some humor in there. Like the Quest for Geology, all you got to do is go outside and you find some rocks. Well, are they rocks or are they crystalline concrete? But anyway, we had this conversation. He was kind enough. He basically was driving past and he saw me making a video inside a creek where I was showing that the pointers into the creek, because it was a 45-degree angle section creek like every other creek bed and riverbed around. And I was showing the pointers, because if there's 45-degree angle sectioning, you're going to have pointers into the creek, and another pointer, and they're always at 45s. And it's like pointing to the ancient building. And I was making that video, and I finished making it, and then he drove by and he goes, "Oh, you can't come into the park right here. You got to go pay the entrance fee." And I was like, "Well, I have a park pass, so I already paid annually, but I'll go do what you said." I was totally nice to him. He was nice to me. We were polite to each other. And I said, "Hey, would you want to be in a video? I have a different theory about the origin of the Earth." And I was expecting him to say, no, that sounds crazy. No. But he said, sure. And I was like, oh my God, there's a chance that I can have two theories come together in a reasonable way where we can actually talk about this. And we did. So go find the Quest for Geology. It's a several-part video. But part one is with the geologist himself, or with the ranger who has a geological background. He gave the geological theory, and we just can compare those. You guys can say which one sounds more reasonable. Now, I want to also make it clear, Jessica, to your audience and to you, that I'm not discounting all of geology. I'm not saying that there's no such thing as erosion. I'm not saying that there's no such thing as fossil beds. Those came later. In my theory, the geological theory dovetails, but it comes in later. So this is geology on the top. On the bottom is the continents, the riverbeds and creek beds as foundations for the hills, and the hills as the foundations for the mountains. They're built. But then we have other things that come in. We can have mud fossils. We can have giant organisms turning into crystalline stone. We can have geological layers of sedimentary material that was created from the granules that slowly eroded over 4 billion years from the crystalline concrete, the features, all those features of the mountains and hills and valleys. That slowly comes into the low-lying areas, right? Localized low-lying areas, and hence geology's term fossil beds, because they're localized. They're fossil beds that are in a specific place. They're in a low-lying area. That's all crystalline concrete granules that became sedimentary layers later. And so it's a bit of a confusion, because we have true sedimentary layers in the fossil beds, but the, quote, sedimentary sandstone around the world that most geologists refer to is concrete with vertically sectioned structuring.
Wow. I'm just kind of showing some pictures as you're talking here, but
yeah.
we're showing the patterns.
Mhm.
Okay, all of the pictures that you've seen. You sent me a lot of pictures to show today.
Right.
It's kind of like the same thing over and over again. It's kind of like when we're examining all the missing people all over the national parks. All the stories are different, but they're all the same too. They're all very similar. There's connections to all
Right.
of this. And after you just keep showing all these different places all over the earth, all across the entire planet, it's very similar, Jock.
Right.
Okay, and you're finding all these patterns, and I think you've done a really good job of putting them all together to
Thank you.
present to the public.
Let's zip through like a bunch more. See that straight line, the straight vertical line on the left of that image?
Mhm.
And then you go, oh my God, it's not just that there's a seam in that material, that's vertical seam through what should be only horizontally structured sedimentary material. It's that the entire gorge, the entire canyon is vertically structured. So those faces, how does sedimentary material create vertical structuring at all, much less vertical seams? This is in the Czech Republic. This is called something rocks, big rocks, or I can't remember what it's called. It's in the Czech Republic.
Wow, it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful, but it's perplexing after
Yeah.
you really pay attention to it and look
And
what's going on there.
so let's see. Jess, do you want to read that meme for us?
Yeah. Well, I can't see it because I've got something over it. All I can
Okay.
see is that you realize the true ancients built it all. When you realize the true ancients built it all, and the mountains were built as everlasting engines of soil generation.
So this is see, because it's not just about the bizarre fact of vertical structuring in what should just be horizontally structured sedimentary material, or chaotically structured igneous material. You've got all this horizontal or all this vertical structuring, and no one seems to question it. It's not just that. So we have the vertical seams, we have the vertical structuring of features all around the world, which should obviously falsify the geological theory, but that's not all. We have something else, which is hashtag ecological terraforming. Okay, what is ecological terraforming? It's the creation of crystalline material continents that would slowly erode over time, creating a soil mass for plants to grow. And once you have plants, then you can have animals. You need the plants, and the plants need the crystalline material, which is exactly what the ancients who built the continents, the true ancients I call them, to distinguish them from the pyramid builders, used to create all of the features that we see in the continents, the riverbeds, the creek beds, now the hills, the valleys, the mountains. So what else did they do to make sure that we had potentized soil for plants? They used alternating hard and soft layers in the riverbeds and creek beds along the banks, starting at a certain level up from the creek bed or riverbed. So in the creek bed or riverbed, you're going to have one basically molded structure that's hard concretized material. Then the next level up, you're going to have more hard concretized material. Then in the creek beds and riverbeds, you're going to have a soft earthquake mitigating layer that is going to erode slowly over time. Every time it rains, you get a little more of that. And here in Texas, it's gypsum, which is calcium sulfate, which is a highly prized fertilizer. So every time it rains, you're getting this slow erosion of the soft earthquake mitigating layers in the creek banks and river banks to feed the land, to feed all of the plants that are thriving on the soil. So not only did they give us crystalline concrete mountains to slowly erode and create soil, they gave us soft earthquake mitigating layers in the creek banks and river banks to potentize the soil with calcium sulfate, or to aerate the soil with limestone, which is calcium carbonate. And so, and the clay in the Bosnian Pyramid complex, the soft earthquake mitigating layers in that structure, that complex of structures, makes such great soil that you will never taste a potato better than the potatoes in the Bosnian Pyramid complex grown on that clay soil. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And that's the ancients knowing that their structures are going to slowly erode and create soil for us. It was all about creating a thriving biosphere for the true ancients who built the continents.
Well, I want to go try some potatoes in Bosnia then.
You do.
That sounds delicious.
You do. I had potato soup almost every day. It was amazing.
Well, it sounds like the earth was treasured back then a lot more. It seems like on this present day, we're destroying the earth. And there needs to be a balance. Right, Jock?
Yeah, I think humanity's waking up to that, and we had a strong ecological movement in the 60s and 70s to wake us up to our part and in fact, ecology was a new idea in the 60s. The fact that we're part of this ecosystem, it was a new word, a new concept, and thank goodness we got our minds around that so that we could know that we should be sharing the world with all of the organisms and not just trashing it for our own, pleasure. And not that trashing it should be pleasurable to us. I never understand why people throw litter in beautiful places on the planet where they're going to return on a hike. I'm like, you're going to come back here on a hike and you're throwing your glass bottle there and it's breaking into a million pieces. I never understand this mentality, but I'm hoping that humanity is going to come out of that barbarism soon.
Yes. Apparently, I think Tanya has had some Bosnian coffee before, just so that'll wake you up.
Okay, I got a story about Bosnian coffee. You want to hear it?
Yes, I'd love to hear it.
Okay, thanks, Tonya Groover. All right. So as I mentioned, I was in Bosnia, in the Bosnian Pyramid complex for 23 months. Looking back on it, I'm like, why would I do that? It sounds crazy. Why would you spend 23 months there? It just doesn't make sense. I was so obsessed with that place, and I still am, because it's like a window into the past. It's such an amazing place, and you can go there as a volunteer and dig under the supervision of a degreed archaeologist, and you can excavate, and you can lend a hand, and you can do things that archaeologists do, and you can get your hands on the past, the distant past, and it's so exciting. And you can excavate tunnels that no one's been in for who knows how many thousands of years. They were plugged, let's see, how many 1400 years ago was it? By an advanced race, they plugged Ravne Tunnel with loose sand and river stones for some reason. I think it was the same reason that they built the Bosnian Pyramid complex over the temple complex, because they knew the barbarians were coming, and they. So we're excavating that slowly. It's such an exciting project. So anyway, I'd wake up every day in this pyramid complex, and one day I was out exploring beyond the bounds of the complex, and I said, I want to see how far this building goes, because the riverbeds were built with 45-degree angle sectioning, and I've discovered that. And it was like, wow, I wonder how far these riverbeds go, and how far the structures along them, the hills along them go that were built. So I was going along, and in Bosnia, there aren't that many fences. There really aren't fences at all. I mean, it's not like in America where everything's fenced off. I have real trouble trying to get down to the rivers and creeks here because I have to go onto a parkland because everybody fences their land. So anyway, in Bosnia, it's all open, and you just walk, and you really don't know if you're on somebody's land in general. So I'm walking along, and I see the structure that looks like it might be a pyramid, not just a mountain. I mean, not just a hill alongside a built riverbed, but a built pyramid structure hill. I thought, I got to explore this. And there was a house at the bottom of it. And I thought, well, I'll just kind of walk up and see what goes on. And as I was walking up, they were having coffee in the patio outside, the amazing Bosnian coffee that, it's almost unparalleled. I mean, maybe in Italy you can find something that's as good, but this is unbelievable. And they said, cafe, and they brought me over. And with their Bosnian, with a little bit of English and my little bit of Bosnian, we had a nice conversation. I said, can I explore the pyramid behind your house, or the hill? And they said, sure. So in other words, they invited me onto their land. I was a stranger walking onto their land, but that's what Bosnia is. It's like, if you walk onto somebody's property, they don't say, can I help you? They go, have some coffee.
Just have some coffee?
Yeah.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Yes,
Have some coffee. Talk to us for hours. Talk to us. Here's our children. Here, meet our children. Here they are.
Over here, we're like, get off my lawn. Okay, stay
Yeah.
away.
Yeah, Bosnia is a really old world. It's still old world, even though Semir Osmanagic's discovery of the pyramid complex has brought so much tourism money in, and they're building hotels and stuff. But the people are still old world. The women are out. These women are out with primitive garden tools. These hoes that are built that don't really last very long because they're not built well, because they just don't know how to make a damn hoe. And they're hoeing this heavy clay to get the potatoes that they planted, and slowly putting these dirty potatoes into an old crappy wheelbarrow, and they're going to sell them at the market for the cheapest prices you've ever seen, after they busted their ass out there, and the men were sitting there drinking coffee while the women were busting their ass in the garden. But everybody has a huge garden, and that's how they eat their food, and then they sell at the market in case you need some tomatoes or something, because you don't garden tomatoes, you get some tomatoes, and it's mostly for the tourists really now, all that produce at these farmers markets. So it's an old world culture. I think that when I was there, most of the Bosnians didn't really believe that there were pyramids, that they were living on the sides of pyramids. I would say, do you believe there are pyramids here? And they'd go, yeah. They didn't really care. It wasn't that they didn't believe, they just didn't care. They're just old world. They're just like, what are you talking about? Have some coffee, smoke a cigarette.
Yeah, they've got more important things to do, like, grow potatoes.
Yeah.
Stuff. Yeah. That's just fascinating to me. Totally fascinating. I mean, well, we've actually been living around a lot of, I'm just going to say pyramids. We actually have some Mayan ruins here in Georgia, up in the North Georgia mountains. I was just up there this weekend, as a matter of fact, not too far from those Mayan ruins. Pyramids out in the middle of the woods, very hidden, very covered up. They're not talked about. There's a place called Chakrat Gap. There's petroglyphs up there. There's all sorts of stuff that's hidden. It's hidden from the public. But see, here's the thing: when the public found out about them, and I've known about them for a long time, okay, because we went up there to do Bigfoot research. But once it got, public recently, over the past few years, people went up there and vandalized it all, and spray painted all over the petroglyphs and stuff. It was really sad. So, some would say that it's best to keep that stuff hidden from the public because of that.
Well, in New Zealand, there's something called the Kaimanawa Wall, which is these beautiful megaliths that create this wall, and they're still intact after all this time. They're moss covered, and they're like in a fairy tale. It's really beautiful. And the New Zealand government, as soon as they saw that people were thinking that this might be ancient building and not just a natural bunch of rocks, they made it illegal to dig there.
Illegal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we don't want the truth uncovered.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess that's what it is. And sometimes I wonder, well, maybe those people that went up there and vandalized everything, maybe it was on purpose, to put some more regulations on the area so nobody could go up there anymore. It's sad that we have to be so cynical, but we do have to be cynical in a world where everything's been manipulated. I was just watching the Lily Nova's interview with Tyler Koala called Time Runners yesterday, and I was like, oh my God, the temporal war, people going back in time all the time, just trying to nudge things, fix things, different factions, different corporations throughout recent history. Yesterday, there's people going back in time. Try and further their agenda by nudging what happened, and we're having all these Mandela effects, and it's like this behind the scenes war for the future. And they also have to then cover up all the stuff that might give us a clue to the truth about what's really going on. So they're covering up the ancient structures by advanced races on the planet. They're covering up the fact that the planet
the planet's continents were created in the distant past. They're covering up the fact that it's almost certain that our planet was built out of the ether, I mean, there's lots of evidence for that, and it's going to be in my book, Artifact Terra, and people can find that. But as I mentioned, it's all about making sure that we don't realize that we have a universe of either infinite time or of perhaps 21 trillion years, as Alex Collier tells us from the Andromedan knowledge base.
Wow. Yeah, I think someone in the audience today said it best. They said, question everything. Just question everything. And, I don't think that everything in our textbooks is wrong. I don't think it's all false. I just think there's some things that have been omitted.
Right. Omission is one of the 7 cardinal sins. I wrote an article about the Cahokia Pyramid Complex a few years ago, and it was called the seven something sins of the archaeological orthodoxy. I can't remember what the word was there, but the 7 sins, and omission, the sin of omission was, I think, number 1. So what the controllers do is it's like Wikipedia. They just omit what they don't want us to know. So, for instance, Wikipedia's page on the Bosnian pyramids isn't even called Bosnian pyramids. It's called Bosnian Pyramid Claims. I and many other researchers have tried to change the nonsense on that page for years and years and years, and they won't allow that because, as far as Wikipedia goes, when Wikipedia is the Luciferian control system, encyclopedia, they believe, they have it logged, that the Bosnian pyramids is a hoax perpetrated by a businessman who wants to bring tourist money to war-torn Bosnia. So they believe that all the people, the hundreds of thousands of people in the last 19 years, 2005 to today, who have visited that complex have found only hills and grass and stones, and that all of them went home dissatisfied. Well, none of them, I can't say none. There's been a couple detractors, but 99.999% of the tourists to the Bosnian Pyramid Complex have gone home with amazing stories of what they saw there. And they didn't just see grass and hills, as Wikipedia tells us that they will see. They saw an ancient complex built in 34,000 years ago to 35,000 years ago, and that's carbon dated. And although people do say that carbon dating can be manipulated by cosmic rays, and so we don't know for sure, these fossilized leaves that were found in the Bosnian Pyramid Complex material as we excavated were found under blocks and clay material, pure clay, that was construction clay that was laid down by the ancients who built the Pyramid of the Sun, where the leaves were found. And so the cosmic rays would have been kept from manipulating or perturbing the material in the leaves. And so therefore I think the carbon dating of these leaves is correct. And so it's 34,000 plus or minus a few hundred years. So I think that, and Vanessa Lyle, when I asked her how old is the Bosnian Pyramid Complex, she didn't know anything about the Bosnian Pyramid Complex. She said that her guide immediately said about 35,000 years. So they started presumably about 35,000 years ago. It took them a while to build it, and now we have the carbon dating of the leaves found inside the structure of the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun at 34,000 plus or minus a couple hundred years.
Wow. That is just fascinating. And it's something that we talk about occasionally on the channel is who built the pyramids. Okay, who built the pyramids, like the Great Pyramid of Giza? Barry Littleton, Barry. He gave me a blind coordinate remote viewing target a while back, and I was actually seeing giants building, and giants compared to us, but see, it all makes sense now because the Earth was much bigger back then, and so everybody was a giant compared to us now, I'm assuming. Okay, well, and this is just something depicting, giants building the pyramids back then.
Yeah.
So, so the giants, I think, are some of the builder race. Okay, so I guess we could safely say that the builder race probably were giants. Some people were still saying in the audience saying the Anunnaki, right? And fantastic conversation today, by the way. I am so excited that you came here and talked with us today. about the ancient builder race, the anomalies and all of the mountains, the geology of our planet and everything, and the Bosnian pyramids. I am so excited that you came and joined me today, and I do have to go pick up my kid here in a few minutes.
Okay.
So, John, do you have any final thoughts today, or anything you'd like to tell the audience?
Yes, the ancient builder races were many, and they were doing many different things. David Wilcock talks about an ancient builder race that was building on the planets. It was building different structures, hollowing out asteroids. Now that's his ancient builder race, right? And they disappeared from our realm, and no one knows who they are. And Alice Collier calls them the Patal, P-A-A-T-A-A-L, Patal, ancient, and that's the same as David Wilcock's ancient builder race, I believe. So that's not who I'm talking about. I'm talking about advanced intelligences, consciousnesses who came together to intentionally create this planet and probably all the other planets that we see. The idea that planets come into existence through natural forces is nonsense, and I'm going to deal with that in my book, Artifact Terra. You can find me on YouTube, Jock Doubleday, and that's probably the best place. You can always email me at jock.terra at protonmail.com. You can check out my playlist, Artificial Riverbeds, on YouTube. And I prefer that if, instead of asking me, a playwright, what to think, you just go out on a hike and have a look for yourself and just ask yourself this one question. Is what I'm looking at natural or artificial?
I'm going to be looking at everything in the woods from here on out, all over the place, everywhere I go. I have started paying attention more these days to what could be man-made or conscious made, I don't know, intelligently made, as opposed to natural. So, so interesting. I mean, it's kind of hard for people to wrap their heads around at first when you first start hearing about this. For some people, I'm going to say the normies, right? Normies or whatever. But as much research as we've been doing, especially here on the channel, it makes sense, Jock. It does make sense. So yeah, everybody, please go and subscribe to Jock Doubleday on YouTube, and also in the description box below this video, we have your WordPress, your blog about the Bosnian pyramids and your time there. So you guys go check that out as well. And
if people want to check out my my YouTube channel on Bosnian pyramids, just go to youtube.com/Bosnian pyramids with an S. You have to type in the whole URL because they're shadow banning it.
Okay, and my moderators have been putting your YouTube channel and your links in the live chat the entire show.
Thank you.
So you guys just go and check out the live chat, and you can find all the links right there. So thank you to all my moderators. Y'all are the best. I have the best live chat in all the internet, Jock. I do. I have the best moderators. We have a really good time here, and everybody's really, really cool here. So and we have the best guests here too. You're the best, Jock. I really enjoy having you. I hope you'll come back and see me again. Come hang out.
Absolutely, I'd love to.
Okay, perfect. All right, well, we'll plan on it. We'll plan on it for sure.
Good.
All right. Well, everybody, I hope you guys enjoyed the show today. I hope everybody learned something. I always learn from all of my guests and co-hosts. And I just want you guys to start paying attention to the world around you. And to not only just look for anomalies like this, but just pay attention to the beautiful aspects of the world too, to all the beauty around us. Because there's so many more beautiful things than there are ugly things, in my opinion. Okay. And so that's how we make this world a better place. So, Jock, thank you so much again for being here today. You guys, please come back and see me on Wednesday. We have Vic Cundiff of Dogman Encounters coming on the show. We're going to be talking about dogmen and werewolves from all over the world and real encounters with them. Okay. So you guys, please come back and see me then. We have a full lineup of shows this week. I've got the best shows, the best guests. And Jock, you started off the week for us here on the channel. So, all right, y'all. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. Thank you for all the support. I appreciate every single bit of it. You guys, please stay safe out there. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys back here on Wednesday. All right. See you, Jock. Y'all have a you.